Okay guys, today I have a really fun project. I do a lot of building countertops in our studio and installing them, but I also get a lot of questions about maybe countertops that are existing in a home, especially integrated sinks where it's all one piece. So that's what we're gonna do today. And I actually went and got this sink from a hotel resale. It came out of a hotel. So we're gonna make it look gorgeous. And I think I paid $20 for it. But it's functional. It's there's nothing wrong with it. It's just ugly. So we're gonna make it pretty. Make sure when you go over an existing substrate, laminate, stone, anything shiny, that you really scuff it up, you prime it with a bonding primer. That's the key. It has to be a bonding primer. The kilts that you buy at Home Depot that are just for drywall or multi-surface, that's not going to cut it. You really need a bonding primer. So I used XIM on this project. That is one of my very, very favorite primers. So we did that and 2 coats of the bonding primer. Let that dry overnight. And kind of how I make sure that it's ready for the next step, which is the bare paint and primer, is I take my fingernail, and if I can scratch that easily, it's not ready. Either we need another coat or we need to let it dry just a little more. So I can't really reiterate the fact that you really need to make sure that first level of protection and adhesion is good. So after that, I'm gonna come back in here and I'm gonna lightly sand my bare paint and primer. And only reason I'm doing this is for mechanical adhesion. I really want that next layer to have a bite, something to grab onto. I'm not sanding it hard, just getting it a little bit roughed up. We'll come in here. What we're going to do as far as the finish is going to be one of my favorite things to do. It's bring in my background of faux finishing and stuff to my epoxy. And we're going to foil this and give it a really cool finish where you're not really having to worry about your epoxy finish running into the bowl and you losing your pattern. We're gonna lay down the pattern first before we ever put any epoxy over it. So that's gonna be the fun part. If you've never worked with foils, they are so much fun. We're gonna be starting off with a leopard foil, and I'm a little crazy. But we're gonna first lay down just a solid black foil, and then we're gonna go over the top with the leopard foil. So when we use our foils, we need to use a foil adhesive, which takes the pattern from the foil onto your surface. So there is no better foil adhesive, in my opinion, than Artsyville. I love the fact that I can put this adhesive on the surface. Takes about 45 minutes to come to a very strong tact, and then it never goes beyond that. So let's say I lay my adhesive down and something happens and I have to go for 4 hours. I come back, I still can work on it. So once I put my adhesive down and I lay down my foil, then the stickiness goes away. So we'll start off with that. Now you can find all of these products on my website link to Artistic Painting Studio, Jennifer Ferguson. She is a personal friend, but even more than that, she's a mentor of mine. And if you know me, I believe in mentors. And she has helped me so many times over the years, and her products are fabulous. I don't want it super thick, but I do definitely want to make sure I've got 100% coverage on here. Anywhere that I want foil to stick, I have to have the adhesive. After I rub it in or apply it, I really like to go back and lightly bring my pattern all one way. So I don't have it every other way. I really kind of like to lay it down all one direction. I'm using a foam roller. I really like those foam rollers because the end is rounded, so it really gets these corners good. Now you can put 2 coats of adhesive if you don't feel like your first coat is thick enough. I'm putting it pretty thick, so I know I'm not going to have to go back. So now I'm going to clean it up a little bit with my paintbrush. Just trying to get adhesive in that curve where I know my roller wasn't able to get. I'll let this dry for about 45 minutes and then we'll come back and we'll start applying the foil. See you in a minute. Hey guys, we would love to see you in one of our hands-on classes. We have several classes to choose from. Check out our website for scheduling, prices, and if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so the next step is to actually take our foils and put it onto the surface because we've already got our adhesive and it's now dried to a tack. So I can actually tell this is ready by when I touch it, it pops and I don't get anything on my hands. If it weren't ready, when I lifted it up, my hand would be sticky. So it's ready to go. The foils that I get come in rolls. You can also order by the foot, and like I said, you can check out Artistic Painting Studios affiliate link on my website, and she has hundreds of different kind of foils. So what I've done is I've taken my foil and I've cut it into sheets. That's the easiest way to work with it, is to take them and put them in sheets, and that way you can work in small sections. Because I want this to be kind of a, not really rustic, but almost like a vintage look. I don't want it to be super crisp lines. I'm gonna take my paper and I'm gonna actually crunch it up a little bit. So now I have a little bit of visual interest when I go to lay it down on my surface. First of all, let me say, see how this is not the shiny side or the actual piece that I'm looking at? The black is what I'm laying down right now. So you would think that you want to lay the black side down. That's the opposite. I want to lay the other side down, the non-pretty side down, because what's happening is the pattern is actually on to this very thin plastic. So when I lay it down, what's going to stick is the pattern. Now, I don't want 100% coverage on this, and I'll show you why in just a minute. If I really wanted this to be total black, I would take my brush and I would really scrub it all over. But I'm only going to hit it in a couple of spots because I just want it randomly to stick. Now I want a little bit more than that. Oh yeah, just a little bit of black. There, just a tiny bit. Now can you see how this is coming off of the plastic? That is actually staying behind on the surface. Now, the way I do my edges is you'll see there's a hard line here. I don't want to go all the way to that line. If I were to scrub that line, you would see that in my pattern when I lift it up. So I keep a very soft edge
I'm literally just randomly putting it down, and you can see I'm lifting, readjusting. This piece is just about had it, so I'm going to get another piece, crunch it up. Now, when I'm laying this down, wherever this lays down, it's going to make that portion of the adhesive no longer sticky. So when I come back with my Leopard is only going to stick to those pieces that my black didn't stick to. So that's why I'm doing this first, is because I want the Leopard to only stick in certain spots, if that makes sense. So, all right, now for the fun part. Take my Leopard. Also, by crunching it up, it helps me to have control of the paper. It doesn't fly so much. So when I crunch it up, I can kind of control where I want it to lay a little better. So we're going to come down here. And as you can see, I'm not worried about any wrinkles. I want this to have that sort of finish. Now this, I'm going to actually go for a little more coverage. So I'm going to really kind of rub it with my brush. And you'll notice I'm not doing circles because that will transpose into my finish. I'm going back and forth, taking very carefully that I don't go to my edge. I don't want to go right next to my edge. You can check it, see how it's coming out. If you want more coverage, you just scrub it a little harder, and it'll bring out that look. Oh, wow. And as you can see, I'm lifting and readjusting, lifting and readjusting. This little lip that is here, I really want to make sure that there we go, that I lift it and readjust it so that that foil can get down into that curve. You can even kind of take your finger and work it around that curve. Awesome! As I said before, I'm not going to the edge. If I were to go to the edge and I pulled this up, you would have a very hard line. So when I come back with my other piece, I'll overlap that, and it'll be very soft, and you'll never see where I changed sheets of my pattern. Foils are a fabulous way of hiding maybe damaged tops of tables, something where you're trying to hide. You don't want to spend a lot of time doing different finishes. Super easy, super fast. Now all I'm going to have to do is go over the top with a flood coat, and I'm basically done. All right, is that cool or what? And you can see I still have pattern left, so I can take this pattern and go in here where maybe I have some voids. Right here, I can tell it's really sticky. Is that not just the coolest? And then once you do that, you can rub your hand on this and you can see that there's nothing sticky because it's been, the adhesive now has the foil on top of it. And of course, when we put our epoxy on there, there'll be obviously nothing sticky on there. All right, so I think I'm gonna save this sheet for some touch-ups and go ahead and get another clean sheet. Now, I'll tell you, just be really careful. As this stuff floats around, if it does happen to hit face down on your adhesive, when you go to pull that up, it has a tendency to pull your adhesive off your surface because this adhesive is so strong. So be really careful when you're messing with this, even if you have to have two people to help you lay it down. I also like to change it up to where my edges stop. My first sheet, I started at this end and my edge stopped right here. So this time I want to start a new edge here and have the edge maybe stop down there if I didn't cut my paper long enough. Now I'm overlapping my two soft edges, still not going all the way to the edge, but you have no idea where those two pieces met. I love the fact that you can lift it up, look at it, see if there's enough coverage, put it back down, and go back over it. If you have bubbles, that's okay. You can either run your finger on those bubbles to get that pattern to release, or you can just pull it up and go back down. And that'll take care of those crinkles and those bubbles. I'm going to do a little different colors inside of the basin, so I don't want to go down into the sink just at this point, but I am trying to go right to that edge. So at this point you want to kind of step back away from it so that your eye can kind of go to where your voids are, and I can see I've got a little bit of void in the back, so I'm going to take there we go. Now remember, you're going to have voids because we laid down that black foil first. And that's really the look I'm going for. I'm so funny about this. I want to get every square inch off my paper. Jennifer laughs at me. I'm like, no, there's a little tiny piece left. We have to use it. This is a good way to tell if you have any places that need to have foil. Very sticky right here. Now once you lay this down, you do need to be careful because this will scratch until you, if you weren't going to do epoxy, you would put some sort of sealer over this. One, to seal your adhesive so it's not scratchy or sticky, but also to protect your foil. When I was thinking about the design that I wanted on here, I didn't want the whole thing to be leopard. That's why I went and did the black first. I wanted voids to where it looked like it was kind of worn, but then the basin I wanted to be a little bit different. So what I'm doing, I was getting just the plain gold, and I'm going to crunch it up, and I'm crunching it up to the side that where when I touch the adhesive it's going to come off. And I'm actually going to do a pouncing, and that pouncing is going to pull off just a little bit of the foil and lay that down into the basing. So that's going to be really a cool look. Make sure you change it a bunch because as you stick it to the adhesive, it's pulling off your pattern. So you have to change it quite a bit or all you're doing is pulling your adhesive off. So now I'm just going to take it super crunched up and I'm just going to kind of lay it down in a crunchy, and then when I pull it up it'll leave a really cool, because I'm getting down to where I don't have a whole lot left on my paper. All right, so now I did that with the gold. I want to come in with the bronze because to me the gold's a little bright. I don't want it quite so just goldy. So now I'm going to come in with my bronze and do the same thing. Now remember, it's only going to stick to where your gold didn't stick before. Okay, I'm thinking that's pretty cool. I'm loving it. I could see this in a powder room where it's a wow factor. This would be the focal point of your little powder room. Loving it, loving it. Okay, so now here comes the icing on the cake. I'm gonna do a flood coat with Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. I've added a very, very tiny bit of the gold dust. Now it's not the gold mica powder. That is a very, very small particle, and that would actually tint the epoxy. This is their gold dust. A little bit bigger particle, so it's more almost like a glitter, but not as big a particle as a glitter. So I'm gonna lay that down. Now I'm not gonna pour it into the basin itself, because we know that because epoxy is self-leveling, that it's going to run downhill. So I'm gonna save that for the very end. So I'm gonna prime my brush. And the reason I prime my brush, if I put a dry brush straight into my product, all I'm doing is pulling product off my project. So if I prime it first, and then I put my brush down in there, I'm not pulling that product off. So I'm just gonna take this, brush it on. Like I said, I'm not really too much worried with the backsplash or the basin at this point. I just want to get the product laid out onto the surface. And it is amazing how that epoxy wakes up this foil and brings it to a new level. And then my next coat, I'll let this dry. I'll come back and do the same thing. Then I don't have my epoxy puddling here in the corner. So my second coat will go on so much easier, and it'll just be kind of a protective measure. Right now I'm sealing it all. So when I mixed up this epoxy, I mixed it up at 1 ounce per square foot, as opposed to my flood coat, which will be 3 ounces per square foot. Right now I'm just trying to seal everything, get rid of all that stickiness from my adhesive, and then my second coat will go on like glass. I'm not gonna add any heat to this backsplash, because I know if I do, then I'll definitely get runoff. I'll watch it. If I see bubbles appear, I may hit it just a tiny bit with heat, but very, very little. Voila, I've taken a very ugly $20 sink and I've turned it into a really cool, fun piece that would be great in a powder room, maybe in a kid's bathroom. And like I said, there are hundreds of foils with so many different patterns, so many different things that you could do with this. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and look forward to seeing you in future tutorials. Talk to you soon.